Hey, this is Bear from PortaKeeper. I've had a pretty busy week, so I need to get caught up on some of the stuff that I want to look at on this Turin grinder. And something that I tried this morning, I did the V60 the other day. I wasn't like wowed by it, but it wasn't bad. I think it was mainly the beans, a little bit older. But really what I want to look at, I did a Aeropress today. I am not the Aeropress master anymore. I used to run an Aeropress every day for quite a few years. It was my work coffee maker. I just really enjoy an Aeropress, but I had one of the original ones when you bought it on like the Frisbee website, and this gasket, I believe the new one's silicone, and the original one was some sort of a rubber, and it was really worn out. It wouldn't even like, you'd put it on like that and just kind of slide down. So I just bought this a few days ago and I used it for the first time today. And I used the Turin grinder on setting, I think I said 65 earlier. I used it on setting 60. It was amazing. Normally I use this Ditting grinder, and it is just a phenomenal grinder, but it is huge. It is a lot more expensive. So I just really want to take a look at what does this Ditting do, what does this Turin do, and I also have some V60, so I'm going to try to put it all in one video real quick. So I think the first thing I want to do is just look at where this Ditting comes out in terms of like grinds. It grinds very fast. It has 80 something millimeter burrs. I have this little cup that I like to use. So I usually run it on the filter paper setting for a V60, and probably hard to see. Let's see, you can kind of see in there. And let's put it to the side. I'm probably just going to leave it in the cup. I know I actually was a little bit finer earlier this morning on this Turin. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to grind just a couple grams to this Turin. And I think I'm actually going to up it to about 65. And I'm just going to feel the difference between these two. So, yeah, I think we're about the same, honestly. Let me put them side by side and do a quick, just roll through my fingers. I think they're both very good. They're fairly coarse. I mean, this Turin, it goes from 0 to 90 on the settings, and I have it on 65 right now. This Ditting is pretty much right in the middle. Filter paper is like a setting 5, and it goes to a 9 as well. So from 0, well, maybe it goes to a 10. Doesn't matter. So I'd say these are fairly close to the same. I'd say let's prep a V60 real quick. And I'm actually going to use this Good Brothers coffee. I have this Ethiopian marmalade, honey, lemon. It's kind of a light to medium wash, just pretty freshly roasted. I mean, it's sat for a week, so it should be about perfect. So let's take a look at that. So I set up my kind of scale, and I'm really not going to get too crazy on brew ratios. I kind of know what I like from a brew ratio standpoint. I think I'm going to leave this on 65 for both of these. But I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use 22 grams in the V60. And I'll probably end up using 20 grams in the Aeropress. So here's 22. We're going to throw this in, and we're going to start prepping our V60 real quick. Let's put that up there. So real quick, this is one thing that I am going to complain about on the Turin. It's not just a Turin problem. I've even had it on this ditting. But I noticed whatever I put my ditting on, like if I had it on more of a plastic surface, like I had one of those plastic folding tables where I had it off in a workshop for a little while, and I got a lot more static when it was on that plastic table. This is on a nice wood surface. It's grounded nice. You didn't have any static with this. This definitely has a lot more static going on. So that is one thing that is an issue for me. Now, is it the end of the world? No, not really. It's just a mess. I want to look into a small spray bottle. Some of these grinders, they come with a small spray bottle. There's like the chopstick method where you use this like a wooden or a bamboo chopstick, get it wet, and put it in your bean cup and just get that little bit of moisture on the beans. So for now, I'm just going to rinse this filter. And get this prepped. Let's dump this over here. And then I am going to do 20 grams for the Aeropress on the same grind setting. That was loose. Let's get this out. So I did this morning on a little bit darker beans on the Aeropress, and I usually don't drink darker beans, but God, it just turned out so good. It was just phenomenal. I don't want to admit that this turns as good as it is. So there's 20 grams. I'm a little rusty. I forget about how much I used to use. I did 20 grams this morning. Turned out great. And I diluted it a little bit. I'm not used to this single dose stuff. So we have our mess just all over. But just like our portafilter I showed y'all the other day, this dosing cups fit perfectly in this portafilter. And I'm pretty sure these guys at Aeropress, I mean, they know what they're doing. It fits on the Aeropress perfect. So I mean, that's pretty handy with this dosing cup. It's a cheap piece of plastic, nothing too fancy to it, but I love this thing. Even if I didn't own this grinder, I think I'd probably try to find something about like that. So I am going to throw some water in this. Let's start with the V60. And I'm going to do about 320 grams of water total. Again, this is the kettle. I haven't upgraded yet. This is the kettle that I don't like. My good one just kind of crapped out on me. But we're going to let it bloom. Hopefully it doesn't get too boring watching this, but we'll see what happens. Actually, while we're at it, just to speed things up, let's get the Aeropress going. So what I like to do is give it a little bloom. I don't think it really makes that big of a deal on an Aeropress, but I usually fill it up just below the 2. And I like to do this at about 60 to 80 for the bloom. Then I took it up to about 200. So this is probably fairly bloomed out. I mean, it could go a little bit longer, but let's just top it off. Because what I hate on the Aeropress is eventually it starts dripping through that filter, whether you like it or not. I should be weighing this, but it's pretty easy to go off volume on that. So we're at 200. I'm going to top this off to the 325. Okay, went a little over. And I usually let this go a minute. God, I really don't know what I did on the Aeropress in the past. I need to look that up. It's just been so long. I haven't used one in over a year. But I've been using the V60, been very happy with the V60. Such a simple brewing method. I've been getting very complex notes out of it. So I didn't stir it. I probably should have stirred it. But let's just give it a quick press. I don't like to go real hard. It's like a nice and easy press. Our V60 is finishing pretty nice over here. I'm a big proponent of pushing through all the hiss. I don't know why. I always have, though. I kind of like that espresso puck to it. So, I don't know what y'all like to do normally. I usually top mine off. This isn't quite a cup of coffee, in my opinion. It's close. But I like to give a little bit of dilution. Not a whole lot. And this V60 should be about done. This is barely dripping over here. I might just have to put that V60 to the side because we're pretty much done there. So, from a volume standpoint, two very similar volumes of coffee. I know it's pretty piping hot. It was over 200 degrees on that kettle. But let's give it a quick sip. This is the Aeropress, and that was the V60. So let's see if we can really taste a difference. And let's see if this setting a 65 on the Turin really did a good job. This is very good. It's a little bit hot for me to really distinguish some of the flavors, but this is very good. It's very mellow. I'm not getting any harsh notes. This is very good. Especially for being so foreign to that. I need to get going with that again. So here is the V60. I'm a little bit more accustomed with the V60. I like doing this several times a week. I get a little burnout on espresso. Just want a normal cup of coffee, which you could say my normal cup's not most people's normal cup. I mean, using some nice beans, nice grinders. Boy, this is hot. Boy, that is... I'm really surprised. I'm going to do a quick side-by-side. This one, I feel like it's a little less complex with the V60. A little less strong, which, I mean, that's not super uncommon. The Aeropress seems to be a little bit more concentrated, in my opinion, but they were diluted about the same volume of coffee. This one had a little bit more grounds in it. Just, that's how I like. Well, no, that one had a little bit more grounds in it. So this had less, and it seems a little bit stronger. I'm a little surprised. Even with all my lack of prep and everything, didn't wash the filter, none of that. That Aeropress is just solid. I would say that your setting 65 is, I mean, every grinder is different, every bean is different. But that 65 setting, I mean, that's going to be in my head between probably 60 and 70 for Aeropress and V60, probably even drip. Drip's going to be a real pain because this cup's just not big enough for most drip machines. But I'd hope you're not buying like a nicer grinder for that, but it is nice to have like a small drip machine. I'd prefer a Chemex and use a kettle like this. But let's give it one more test. That was the V60. A little bit more brightness to it. A little bit cleaner. I think this is just... I usually like a cleaner cup. I think this has just got that little extra mud in it for some reason. And that kind of brings the flavor through. Just, yeah. I like that Aeropress. We're not really comparing Aeropress to V60. What we're looking at here is, can this Turin really do what people are wanting it to do? Normally I run it on between setting 13 and 16 for espresso. I've been cranking out espresso. Thing's been surprising me like crazy. Very similar burrs to the Super Jolly. Very similar burrs to Rocket Faso. Very similar burrs to the K30 that I have. Really, the only thing that's outperformed it, in my opinion, would probably be this Atom 75. I just feel like the burrs in it are great. So, really hard one to beat, in my opinion. I've tried even nicer grinders than that, and I feel like this one, it can hold its own. The Ditting, I think, is not an espresso grinder, at least as the normal Ditting. If you went with like the Lab Suite or something with a little bit different burrs, I could probably get some really amazing espresso out of it. I've used it for espresso. The burrs just aren't made for espresso. The burrs for V60 and Aeropress, it is ridiculous. So, I mean, $2,000 grinder to a $600 grinder, this thing's really holding its own. This thing's about $1,500 with the chrome, $1,400 and like white or black. Super Jolly is $1,000. Hard for me to really complain about this. Kind of a pessimist. I didn't think it was going to be near as good as what it is. But really my only complaint so far is that it's a bit messy. Hope you can see it in the video. I mean, there's a lot of static on this, especially on the white body. I'm used to it. Go to Home Depot, go to Lowe's, go to Menards, Ace, wherever your hardware store is, buy a brush like this. This is a 3-inch brush. I have a 2-inch brush upstairs. And before you know it, it's clean. It's not that big a deal. I still think chopstick, wet chopstick, sprayer, something like that, you're not going to get that much static. That'll probably be something that I look at next. What can we do to reduce static? Buy a small spray bottle, do a wet chopstick, something like that, and try to get the static down. Because when I'm doing espresso, it's not bad. Static's, I mean, it just pours right out. It pours right into your portafilter. Not a big deal. Here, man, I'm getting a mess. But if you have a Smart Grinder Pro, I mean, that thing is a disaster. If you have a Breville, those things are just a notorious mess. Same thing with the Super Jolly. I mean, it's kind of a disastrous mess. This thing's clean. This thing's clean. Some other grinders that I've used are pretty clean. This one's kind of middle of the road. Not really complaining, but just something for y'all to keep in mind. So, can it do V60 and Aeropress? Which I know a lot of people have been asking. I'm going to say yes, because I've used it against some of the better grinders out there, and better beans more suited to these brews, it really came through. Love it. So if you're thinking about this, I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I want one. I need one in my lineup, so I wouldn't hesitate, especially for the price. I know Espresso Outlet, they've been doing some introductory pricing. It also comes under the name Solo. This is the Turin DF64. Head over to Espresso Outlet. I know he's importing quite a few, so go check one out. Let me know if you have any more questions, if there's anything else that you'd like me to see. I know a bunch of people have asked, compare or try to take the burrs out of this, put it in that, because they are compatible. I'll probably be doing that next. Check the burr alignment, see if that's a big deal. I'd say these are fairly well aligned, but it's really hard to tell from just looking at the grounds. And we'll do some fun stuff, so make sure to check back. Thanks.